Yo, boys, today they just dropped the Elden Ring Nightreign trailer and I want to discuss it. There's a lot of details we'll be getting into here. Not only that, but they just released that there will be playtests in February. The sign up starts January 10th, so I highly recommend signing up for that if you are interested in getting into the spot test. When you first go into the game, you can choose to either play solo with a group of friends or you can queue into a random lobby. The maximum players you're allowed to play with is 3, and you're allowed to play solo as well. All right, now let's jump into how the game will actually work. We're going to start off by flying onto the bird and you're going to be dropping in to Limgrave like the battle bus and something like Fortnite here. You'll be playing then for 3 days and you have to survive the both day and night cycles, the night being considerably harder than the day cycles. There'll then be a circle closing in on you like a true battle royale where you're basically time gated and you have to respect the circle or you'll be getting hit by acid rain, do considerable damage to you. Nightreign is thankfully a little bit more lenient on you during the day. If you die before you can be revived by a squad mate, you are able to respawn with full health. You're just penalized by 1 level of your character, which admittedly can be fairly costly given the highest level I ever reached during the 3-day cycle was 14. However, although you can be revived down players during the end of day boss fight, there are no actual respawns during these. Death in this game will be pretty severe because losing basically 10% of your progression, just dying once in 3 days, it seems pretty harsh, and it looks like dying will definitely be on your things of not to do, which I think is nice, giving a lot more risk and reward and making you make more strategic decisions along the way. Now, when you drop in, you seem like you'll have a bunch of tasks that you can choose to do. As far as getting the balance right between lending for churches to snap up valuable HP flasks, taking down the more major overworld enemies like dragons and hippos in order to get maximum rune boosts before the map is cast into darkness once again. So this basically for me entails that once the turns to night, it seems like it's a lot harder to do these sorts of activities, making the time you spent during the day really valuable, and you have to make your decisions carefully. Also, I think it's interesting how you don't spawn in with a set amount of heals and you have to go out of your way to get flasks to be able to heal. But luckily, you only need to walk near a set of grace to top off your health and flasks. If you want to spend some more runes to level up, just button mash to the pages of auto leveling that best suits the base traits of your chosen character rather than having to agonize over whether you should allocate points to faith or dexterity, for example. Finding sites of grace is extremely important in order to progress throughout the leveling process. I am curious to see how rare these are since the maps are procedurally generated like the dungeons in Bloodborne. So I wonder if there's like a set number of grace that can spawn on each map or how they are planning to implement this. Or if they're going to be like some really rare thing that you don't find all the time, making when you do find one extremely valuable. There will, however, be some consistent progression throughout your character. You'll be given permanent attribute buffs that will be unlocked after each session, and you can slot 3 of them into each character to further tailor them to your current playstyle. One relic might boost a character's maximum HP and allow them to deal extra damage with throwing knives, for example, while others might substantially boost attacks from heavy thrusting swords. So these kind of sound like rings that will permanently buff you from playthrough to playthrough, so you will have some sustainable progression. So the way loot will be working in this game is very similar to games like an MMORPG like WoW or Final Fantasy or even something like Diablo or Path of Exile. You'll be given different stat and bonuses and attributes depending on the gear that you equip. And on top of that, the gear will be sorted by rarity, such as gray, green, blue, purple, and orange. So I think it'd be interesting if you drop in, you get that golden claymore, or you get that gray straight sword. It can definitely make for some interesting dynamics. On top of that, when you kill bosses, sometimes you will be given the opportunity to choose certain loot and giving you more choice instead of it just being pure RNG. I think this is a very welcome change, and this should be very interesting to see play out with each run being completely different. I think this will add some interesting dynamics. Do I equip the weapon that's better for my build but has a lower rarity value? Or do I equip a weapon that I've never used before but that has a high rarity value to simply get the stat density increase? In terms of armor, there will be no armor weight class in this game, such as in previous Dark Souls game like light, medium, and heavy load. It won't matter what you equip, it's just purely mainly for cosmetics, and you'll always have your top movement speed and top dodging. They also plan to remove all fall damage in this game mode, which I think is relatively interesting. That means that you have no punishment for dropping off high places or anything like that. It should make exploring more enjoyable since you're able to jump off cliffs and not worrying about dying. Also, you're able to run up cliffs, which looks really fun to do since that was very fun to do in Sekiro, and I'm very excited to actually see this mechanic in action. Once each day is over, you'll be fighting the final boss of that day. At day 3, you'll be fighting the Night Lord. There is a total at the moment of 8 total Night Lords in the game, and I'm excited to see them expand this over time. I wonder if they'll be implementing DLCs in the future, where you have to pay money to get access to more bosses and more classes. I do wonder if this is how they plan to monetize the game. Next, let's talk about the character selection. It looks like they're going to be kind of going with a class system like in MMOs, where they'll offer 8 different heroes to choose from, each with very clear identified strengths and weaknesses in order to make them easy to pick up and play as possible. This sounds very unique, but there only will be 4 classes at the start, or at least in the testing phase. These classes are given certain skills and ultimates that have cooldowns, so once again it feels like they're taking from MMOs in this regard, where you have to be using these sparingly and choose when to use your key abilities, such as an ult that can turn a fight or maybe close out a boss fight, or a skill that can save you in a tight pinch. We do know a few of these classes. I'll get into some of them here. One being the Guardian is able to conjure a mini tornado to knock swarms of enemies off their feet, while Recluse can put a marker on an enemy so that every time that the enemy is attacked, the damage is siphoned into boosts for their own HP. The next class is here on screen, where he uses his bolt there kind of as a big fireball. He also has a hook like from Mortal Kombat here. He says get over here and yoinks you towards him. You also have this dash here where you fly into the sky and ground pound right, doing a big AoE damage. So it looks like it's feeling very MMO-esque with maybe some Monster Hunter vibes mixed in there. Really exciting to see how the combat kind of evolves. I'm sure there'll be lots of fun challenge runs that you can do with this game mode. I think that might be one of the major appeals of this. You only can use one ability or one weapon with this class, and you can like kind of lock yourself in to maybe no healing and all that stuff. There should be a lot of fun challenge runs that people will come up with. Maybe the modders are going to be able to mod some cool stuff into here as well. That should be really fun. At the moment, it doesn't sound like they plan on having PvP in here, which I think is a very big downside because the combat looks super fun, and I'm sure a lot of people love to try doing this in kind of an arena style mode, fighting each other, especially when they get geared up. That sense of progression is very nice when it's meaningful and kind of like you're gearing up for PvP. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in doing that as well. I am also hoping that they finally add a boss rush mode from Sekiro. This is like the golden child of Sekiro. Such a good idea, and they have never re-implemented this into any Souls game. I have no idea why. It's so fun being able to fight whichever boss you want, when you want, not being forced to go through the entire game to do so. Please implement this. This is such an amazing idea, and I really hope they put it in this game, and it's the perfect game to do it. Whenever you're near like this kind of spectral tree, you're able to summon the bird and it'll take you flying sky high in one direction. Now they don't plan on having this. They don't want you to be able to abuse this, so sadly you only can use this around the spectral tree. But I think this is a cool way to get around the map and adds for some interesting level design. I just want to close out the video here with me talking about the things I've noticed that they've taken from other games and all the inspiration that they have used for this game. I also want to mention this has nothing to do with the Elden Ring lore. This is supposed to be like an alternate universe after the Shattering, so this doesn't have any correlation with the previous Elden Ring lore. First off, we're starting with the Centipede Demon, I believe from Dark Souls 1. If you guys play Dark Souls 1, you know what I'm talking about. This guy looks like basically the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1. Then we look like we have Sekiro style movement with very fast climbing, fast mobility, and parrying against mobs, just like in Sekiro. Very similar gameplay. On top of that, then we have the Nameless King, which came from Dark Souls 3. And then I believe we also have Nassandra from Dark Souls 2. As you can see, they're opening the gate here. Very similar to Dark Souls 2 when you go and fight the final boss. If you guys haven't seen this meme here, this is basically, in my opinion, describes how this game is going to be. It's taking all the elements and bosses from other games. They're going to be sprinkling them in to Elden Ring Nightreign. But don't worry, we're also using some enemies from Elden Ring 2, so every Souls game gets some love. I'm really excited to see what they have in store with the rest of the game, what the other 4 classes are going to look like. We barely know about the 4 classes right now. I'm really excited to see how they take this idea. It's very unique, and I cannot wait to play it. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Are you excited to play the game? Are you excited to do some spicy challenge runs? What are you most excited for? I think this will be an MMO Monster Hunter style game. Like, what are your predictions? I would love to hear them down in the comments below.